The stars burned cold outside the viewing port of Bastion Station. Commander Thelorin stood with his wings folded tight against his back, watching another ship explode in the distance. The flash of light was brief, then nothing. Another 100 lives gone in an instant. "Commander, the Western Fleet is falling back," reported his tactical officer. Her voice carried the exhaustion they all felt. "They cannot hold much longer." Thelorin said nothing. There was nothing left to say. For 300 years, the free races of the galaxy had fought against the Vexthor Empire. For 300 years, they had lost ground, lost worlds, lost hope. Now only Bastion remained, a single station orbiting a dying star, filled with the last refugees who refused to bow. The Vexthor were coming. Their vast armada moved like a dark cloud across space, swallowing everything in its path. High Empress Zarketh had promised to make an example of Bastion. She would show the galaxy what happened to those who resisted. Deep in the station's archive levels, historian Mulvek worked by the light of ancient data screens. His compound eyes scanned through files that most considered forbidden. Records of the humans. The humans who had vanished 4,000 years ago without explanation or warning. Mulvek had spent his entire life studying them. The humans had been the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Not because they were the strongest or the smartest, but because they brought everyone together. Under human guidance, thousands of species had lived in peace. They shared knowledge, resolved conflicts, and built a future together. Then one day the humans were simply gone. Every human world stood empty. Their ships sat silent in orbit. Their stations responded to no calls. In a single night, billions of humans had vanished as if they had never existed. No bodies, no messages, no explanation. The galaxy had searched for answers. They found none. And without the humans to guide them, the old hatreds returned. Wars broke out. The Vexthor, who had always been aggressive but contained, saw their opportunity. They conquered world after world, building an empire on the ashes of human peace. Mulvek's claws clicked against the console as he accessed another file. He had a theory that no one believed. The humans had not died. They had not been destroyed. They had left on purpose, and they would return. Every culture had legends of the humans coming back when they were needed most. Mulvek believed those legends. An alarm made his antennae twitch. One of his monitoring programs had triggered. For decades, he had maintained watch programs on old human installations throughout the galaxy. Most had been destroyed or scavenged long ago, but a few remained, too dangerous or too isolated for anyone to reach. The alarm came from Sanctuary 7, a human outpost in the dead zone. The station had been silent for 4,000 years. Now it was transmitting. Mulvek's hands shook as he decoded the signal. It was simple, repeating in every known language and several unknown ones. "Patience. We are coming. Hold on." He had to tell someone. He had to tell the commander. Mulvek grabbed the data chip and ran through the corridors as fast as his 6 legs could carry him. Behind him, the station shook as Vexthor weapons struck the outer shields. On the command deck, Thelorin received the report of another fallen ship with barely a reaction. They had maybe 6 hours left. Maybe less. The civilian transports were trying to escape, but the Vexthor had blockaded every route. There would be no escape. "No mercy, Commander!" Mulvek burst onto the deck, his breathing labored. "Commander, they are coming." "The humans are coming!" The bridge fell silent. Several officers looked at each other with pity. The historian had finally lost his mind under the stress. Thelorin turned slowly. "Mulvek, not now. We have... Look at this!" The historian shoved the data chip into a reader. The message played across every screen. "Patience. We are coming. Hold on." "It could be anything," said the tactical officer. "An automated system. A malfunction. A Vexthor trick." "It is from Sanctuary 7, Mulvek insisted. "A human station that has been dead for 4,000 years. It activated 30 minutes ago. The same moment our shields began to fail. That is not a coincidence." Thelorin stared at the message. He wanted to believe. Every fiber of his being wanted to have hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope got people killed when they should have been preparing for the end. "Even if it is real," he said quietly. "What can we do? We have hours at most. The humans have been gone for 4,000 years. They are not coming in the next 6 hours." "Then we hold for 6 hours," Mulvek said firmly. "We hold because that message means something. The humans would not activate a beacon unless they intended to act. A young refugee named Piptel, who worked as a messenger on the bridge, spoke up with a trembling voice. My grandmother told me stories. She said the humans always kept their promises. She said they would return when the last light was about to go dark. Thelorin looked around his bridge. He saw exhaustion, fear, and desperation. But when Piptel spoke of the humans, he also saw something else. A spark. A tiny flame of hope. All ships, Thelorin announced into the communications channel. This is Commander Thelorin. We hold this position. We fight for every minute. The humans have sent a message. They are coming. He did not truly believe it. But his people needed something to believe in. If they were going to die, let them die with hope instead of despair. Outside, the Vexthor Armada advanced. Inside, the people of Bastion prepared for their final stand. And far away, in the dark between dimensions, something ancient stirred and began to move. The evacuation transports lifted away from Bastion Station in groups of 3. Each one carried 1,000 refugees, mostly children and the elderly. They would try to break through the Vexthor blockade and reach the outer systems. Most would probably die, but Commander Thelorin had to try. He watched them go from the command deck, his heart heavy. Behind him, tactical displays showed the Vexthor forces repositioning for their final assault. General Krax, the Vexthor's most brutal military commander, had arrived personally to oversee the attack. The Empress wanted no mistakes. Sir, the archaeological team is requesting immediate transport, reported the communications officer. They have entered the human facility on the surface and are calling it urgent. Thelorin had forgotten about that expedition. 3 days ago, a team of scientists had detected unusual energy readings from ruins on the barren moon below the station, human ruins that had been sealed for 4,000 years. The doors had suddenly opened on their own. Tell them we have no ships to spare, Thelorin began, but Mulvek grabbed his arm. Commander, please. If the humans opened that facility now, there must be a reason. Let me take a shuttle down. 10 minutes. Thelorin wanted to refuse, but something in the historian's eyes stopped him. 10 minutes. Not 1 second more. The shuttle dropped through the thin atmosphere like a stone. Mulvek could see the human facility from above, a massive complex of silver metal that had not tarnished in 4 millennia. The entrance stood open, lights glowing from within for the first time in recorded history. Inside, the archaeological team stood frozen in the main chamber. They had not moved since entering. They simply stared at what stood in the center of the room. She looked human, perfectly human, with dark skin and silver hair, wearing clothes of a style no one had seen in 4,000 years. But her eyes glowed with a soft blue light, and her body occasionally flickered like a hologram. Hello, she said, and her voice came from everywhere at once. My name is Dr. Kira Ven. I have been waiting a very long time to speak with someone. Mulvek approached slowly, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. You are an artificial intelligence, a human AI. I am what remains of Kira Ven, she replied. When the humans departed, they left behind guardians, watchers who would maintain their facilities and wait for the proper time. That time has come. Where did they go? Mulvek asked the question that had haunted him his entire life. Kira's form solidified slightly, becoming more real. 4,000 years ago, human scientists detected something terrible. A wave of exotic radiation moving through the galaxy. It would sterilize every world it touched, ending all organic life. The wave would arrive in approximately 4,500 years. The archaeological team gasped. Mulvek felt his stomach turn. Then we are all doomed. Not if the humans return, Kira said. They could not stop the wave with the technology they possessed. So they made a choice. They would leave this dimension entirely and go to a place where time moved differently, where they could evolve, grow, and become something powerful enough to face the coming extinction. That is impossible, said one of the scientists. Dimensional travel is theoretical. No one has ever achieved it, Kira smiled sadly. The humans achieved many impossible things. They left me and others like me to watch over their legacy, to activate their defense systems when the time was right, to prepare the way for their return. Can you help us? Mulvek asked desperately. The Vexthor are attacking. We have hours at most. I can give you days, Kira replied. The human defense network still exists. Satellites in orbit around every former human world. They have slept for 4,000 years, but they will wake at my command. She raised her hand and the entire facility hummed with power. Above Bastion Station, Ancient satellites flickered to life. They had been mistaken for debris and space junk for centuries. Now they showed their true purpose. The Vexthor fleet suddenly found themselves under attack from weapons they could not see or track. Energy beams lanced out from empty space. Ships exploded or went dark as their systems were disabled. General Krax screamed orders, but his forces could not fight what they could not locate. In 3 minutes, the Human Defense Network destroyed or disabled 15% of the Vexthor armada. Then the satellites went dormant again, their limited power reserves depleted. But they had bought time. Precious time. Back on the moon, Kira continued her explanation. The humans wanted to save everyone, not just themselves. But they knew that if they stayed, they would fail. So they left, promising to return when they were ready, when they had become what was needed. "How do you know they will return?" asked Mulvek. "How can you be certain?" "Because I can feel them," Kira said softly. "At the edge of space, at the boundary of dimensions. They are coming home. They have felt your suffering. They know you are in danger." And humans never abandon their friends. On Bastion Station, Theloran watched in amazement as his sensors showed the Vexthor fleet in chaos. The reprieve would not last long. General Krax was already reorganizing his forces, positioning them beyond the range of the human satellites. But morale had changed. The crew worked with new energy. The impossible had happened. Ancient human weapons had activated to defend them. Perhaps the other impossible thing, the return of humanity itself, might also be real. Young Piptel brought Theloran a cup of heated beverage and smiled. "They are real. The humans are real. My grandmother was right." Theloran wanted to caution against too much hope, but he found he could not. He had seen something impossible happen. What was one more impossibility? On the Vexthor flagship, General Krax stood before a holographic image of Empress Zarketh. The Empress was not pleased. "You allowed ancient weapons to damage our fleet," she hissed. "They took us by surprise, Empress," Krax replied carefully. "But they are depleted now. I am advancing with the full force. Bastion will fall within hours." "See that it does," Zarketh said coldly. "And Krax, if the humans truly are returning, I want their technology. All of it. That is why I am coming personally. I will oversee the final assault and the claiming of human ruins throughout this sector." The transmission ended. Krax felt a chill run through his body. The Empress was coming. She would not tolerate failure. He turned to his officers. "All ships advance. Destroy everything. Leave nothing alive." At the edge of charted space, sensors detected unusual readings, energy signatures that matched no known technology. They were there, then gone, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. A single ship materialized in the darkness. It was small, elegant, and made of materials that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Inside, a man sat alone in the pilot's seat. He looked human, but his eyes held the weight of 4,000 years. He looked toward the distant star where Bastion Station fought for survival. "Hold on," he whispered. "We are almost there." The ship vanished again, moving faster than light should allow, crossing distances that should have taken weeks in mere hours. The humans were coming home. Captain Sorath had flown patrol routes for the Coalition for 20 years. In all that time, he had never seen anything like this. His sensors showed a ship that appeared and disappeared randomly, phasing in and out of reality like a ghost. It was small, maybe big enough for 2 people at most, but it radiated more energy than a battleship. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself," Sorath transmitted, his clawed hand hovering over the weapons controls. His crew of 4 watched their screens nervously. The ship stopped phasing and became solid. It hung in space before them, beautiful and terrible. Then a voice responded, and Sorath felt his scales prickle with instinctive fear. "Coalition patrol vessel, I mean you no harm. My name is Marcus Chen, I am human." The bridge fell silent. One of the crew members made a sign against evil that his people had used for centuries. Humans were myths, legends. They had been gone for 4,000 years. "That is impossible," Sorath said, but his voice shook. "I know it seems that way." The voice replied, gentle and patient. "I would like to come aboard and speak with you. We have much to discuss and very little time." Before Sorath could respond, the ship simply vanished. A moment later, proximity alarms blared. Something had materialized inside their cargo bay. Sorath grabbed his weapon and rushed toward the bay, his crew following. They found a man standing calmly in the middle of the room. He wore strange clothes that seemed to shimmer and shift. His skin was brown, his hair black, and his eyes were a deep brown that seemed to hold galaxies within them. He looked completely human. But the air around him crackled with energy. Electronics flickered in his presence. And when he spoke, Sorath heard the words in his own language, though he knew the human's lips had not matched the sounds. "Thank you for not shooting immediately," Marcus said with a slight smile. "That shows wisdom. I have a message for Commander Thaloran at Bastion Station. You need to take me there." "Bastion is under siege," Sorath said, his weapon still raised. "The Vex Thor will destroy it within hours. We were ordered to scout for possible escape routes." "I know," Marcus replied. "That is why I am here. The siege will not succeed. But first I need you to understand something. The humans did not abandon you. We left to become what was necessary. We went to a place outside normal space and time. We evolved. We changed, and now we are returning." "Why?" asked one of Sorath's crew members.
"Why leave it all?"
"Why not fight with us?" Marcus's expression became sad. "Because we could not win with the tools we had. We detected a threat coming that would end all life in this galaxy. We had perhaps 400 years to prepare with our existing technology. It was not enough time. So we went somewhere that time moved differently, where 4,000 years here would give us much longer to grow and change." "What did you become?" Sorath asked quietly. "Something more," Marcus said simply. "Watch." He raised his hand, and suddenly the cargo bay was filled with images. They saw the universe from impossible angles. They saw energy and matter flowing like water. They saw the shape of space-time itself bending and twisting. They saw Marcus's ship accelerate past the speed of light by simply stepping sideways through dimensions. "We are no longer purely biological," Marcus explained. "We are part machine, part energy, part something that has no name in your languages. We have merged with our technology and evolved beyond it. We can manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. We have become what was necessary to face the coming threat." The images vanished. Sorath's crew stood in stunned silence. "You are gods," one of them whispered. "No," Marcus said firmly. "We are still human. We still remember what it means to care, to hope, to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. We are just human plus 4,000 years of very hard work." "How many of you are returning?" Sorath asked. "All of us," Marcus replied. "Every human who left is coming back. Billions of us. Our ships are gathering at the edge of your space right now. But I came ahead because someone needs to survive long enough for us to arrive. Someone needs to see that we keep our promises." He gestured, and a star map appeared in the air. It showed the position of Bastion Station and the massive Vex Thor fleet surrounding it. "I will go there now. I will buy you one more day. The fleet will arrive tomorrow and this war will end." "One ship against an armada?" Sorath said. "Even with your power you cannot—" "Watch," Marcus interrupted. His form began to glow. The ship around them shook as power built to impossible levels. Marcus smiled one last time at them, and then he simply disappeared. Outside, his small ship moved toward the Vex Thor lines. A patrol group of 20 battleships detected him and moved to intercept. They fired enough weapons to destroy a moon. Marcus's ship absorbed every shot. Then it returned fire. A single beam of blue-white light touched the lead battleship. The vessel did not explode. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there. The next moment there was only empty space. The other ships tried to flee. Marcus destroyed them all in 14 seconds. General Krax watched the destruction from his flagship and felt true fear for the first time in his life. "What was that?" "What destroyed my ships?" "Unknown vessel, sir," his sensor officer reported, her voice trembling. "It matches no known design. The energy readings are off every scale." "Is it the humans?" Krax whispered. Marcus's ship approached the flagship. A transmission came through on every channel simultaneously. "General Krax of the Vex Thor Empire. I am Marcus Chen, human. You have 1 day to withdraw your forces from Bastion Station. If you remain, you will face the returned human fleet. You cannot win. Choose wisely." The transmission ended. Marcus's ship vanished, leaving the entire Vex Thor armada in shocked silence. On Bastion Station, they had watched the entire encounter on long-range sensors. The command deck was so quiet that Thaloran could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, someone spoke. "They are real. The humans are real, and they are coming." Thaloran looked at Mulvek, who had tears streaming down his face. The historian had spent his life believing, and now his faith was proven true. "Send a message to all ships," Thaloran ordered. "We hold for 1 more day. The humans are coming home. Far away, Empress Zarketh received the reports of Marcus's attack. She read them 3 times, not believing what she saw. Then she stood from her throne and spoke to her assembled court. "Ready my personal fleet. I will go to Bastion myself. If the humans are returning, I will face them personally. I will not let them take my empire." Her courtiers looked at each other nervously. No one dared to tell the Empress that empires meant nothing to beings who could make battleships stop existing with a thought. The stage was set. 1 day remained, and at the edge of space, thousands of human ships gathered, preparing to return to a home they had left 4 millennia ago. The day passed slowly on Bastion Station. Every minute felt like an hour. The Vexthor fleet had not withdrawn, but they had not attacked either. General Krax was waiting for Empress Zarketh to arrive with reinforcements. She came with 300 additional warships, the most powerful vessels in the Empire. Commander Theloran watched the Empress's flagship take position at the center of the armada. His sensors counted over 800 Vexthor ships in total. Even if the humans were as powerful as Marcus had demonstrated, could they truly defeat such numbers? "Sir, we are detecting spatial anomalies," reported the sensor officer. Her voice was tight with excitement. "Hundreds of them, all around the system. Energy readings are increasing exponentially." Theloran moved to look at the display. Space itself was tearing open in dozens of locations. Rifts of blue-white light appeared, growing larger by the second. And through them came ships, human ships, thousands of them. They were beautiful. Each one was unique, flowing and organic in appearance despite being made of advanced metals and materials that seemed alive. They ranged from small fighters to massive carriers that dwarfed anything the Vexthor possessed. They moved through space as if swimming through water, graceful and precise. More rifts opened. More ships emerged. Within 5 minutes, 10,000 human vessels surrounded the Vexthor fleet from every direction, and the human ships were still coming. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the Human Defense Fleet," a voice transmitted across all frequencies. "We have returned home. Stand down your weapons and prepare to receive representatives." On her flagship, Empress Zarketh stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Her 800 ships were completely surrounded by an enemy force more than 10 times their size. She had brought her most powerful vessels, her best commanders, her finest warriors, and suddenly they all seemed like children playing with toys. "Empress, should we surrender?" asked General Krax quietly. "Never," Zarketh hissed. "Open fire. All ships, fire everything." The Vexthor armada unleashed its full arsenal. Enough firepower to destroy planets filled the space around Bastion Station. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, and exotic radiation all converged on the human fleet. Not a single shot reached its target. The human ships created fields of energy that absorbed or deflected every attack. Then they responded, but they did not destroy. Human weapons targeted engines, weapon systems, and shields. Vexthor ships went dark and drifted helplessly, their crews unharmed but unable to fight. In less than 2 minutes, half of the Vexthor fleet was disabled. The other half stopped firing, shocked into submission by the overwhelming display of technological superiority. "I repeat." Admiral Okonkwo's voice came again, patient but firm. "Stand down. We do not wish to kill you. We are not here to conquer. We are here to protect." Empress Zarketh's hands trembled with rage and fear. She opened a channel. "I am Empress Zarketh of the Vexthor Empire. You abandoned this galaxy 4,000 years ago. You have no authority here." A new rift opened directly in front of the Empress's flagship. A single small ship emerged and approached. Inside, they could see a human woman with dark skin and close-cropped hair, wearing a uniform of silver and blue. Admiral Okonkwo herself. "Your empire was built on the suffering of others," Okonkwo said, her voice calm but carrying the weight of absolute authority. "It ends today. You will withdraw your forces and release all conquered peoples. Your choice is simple. Peace, or we will dismantle your empire ship by ship, world by world." "You cannot do this," Zarketh said desperately. "We are billions strong. We control half the galaxy." "We became stronger than you can imagine," Okonkwo replied. "Not to rule, but to protect. 4,000 years ago, we detected a threat that would end all life in this galaxy. We left to become powerful enough to stop it. We have succeeded. But we did not forget our friends. We did not forget those we left behind." On Bastion Station, Theloran received a direct transmission from Admiral Okonkwo. Her face appeared on his screen and she smiled warmly. "Commander Theloran of the Seraph people, I am Sarah Okonkwo. On behalf of humanity, I apologize for our long absence. We have monitored your resistance against the Vex Thor. Your courage in the face of hopelessness honors you. We are here now. You are safe. Thelorin felt his legs weaken. He sat down heavily in his command chair. Around him, his crew was openly crying with relief and joy. After 300 years of war, after generations of suffering, it was over. Why did you wait so long? He asked. We needed you centuries ago. Okonkwo's expression became sad. We could not return until we had changed enough. If we had come back too early, we would have failed to stop the true threat. We watched your suffering. We felt your pain. Every human felt it across dimensional barriers. It drove us to work harder, to push ourselves further. We evolved as fast as we possibly could, and we came back the moment we were ready. What are you now? Thelorin asked. What did you become? We are human plus 4,000 years of evolution, she replied. We merged with our technology. We learned to manipulate energy and matter at fundamental levels. We became partly biological, partly digital, partly something new, but we remained human where it mattered, in our hearts, in our values, in our promise to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human ships appeared at every Vex Thor stronghold simultaneously. Conquered worlds were liberated. Slaves were freed. In some places, the Vex Thor fought. Those ships were disabled but not destroyed. Humanity had returned with overwhelming force, but also with overwhelming restraint. In the place between dimensions where humanity had spent 4,000 years, the experience had been very different. Time moved strangely there. What was 40 centuries in normal space had been nearly 1,000,000 years in their refuge. Generation after generation of humans had been born, lived, and died working toward a single goal, becoming strong enough to save everyone. They had merged their consciousness with advanced AI, allowing them to think faster and process more information. They had rebuilt their bodies at the cellular level, making them more resilient and adaptable. They had learned to manipulate the quantum field itself, granting them abilities that seemed like magic to others. But through it all, they had kept their humanity. They told stories of the friends they had left behind. They remembered the galaxy as it had been, full of diverse peoples working together. They held on to hope that when they returned, they could rebuild that dream. And they had succeeded. Empress Zarketh watched as her empire fell apart in a single day. Every world she had conquered was being freed. Every fleet she commanded was being disabled. And the humans had not killed a single person unless absolutely necessary for defense. She realized then that she had not just lost a war, she had been proven irrelevant. The humans were not conquering her empire. They were simply making it disappear, revealing it as the temporary thing it had always been. We surrender, she said quietly. Admiral Okonkwo nodded. You and your command staff will be taken into custody. Your people will be allowed to return to their homeworld. What they do after that is their choice. But the age of empire is over. The age of cooperation begins again. As Vex Thor ships began powering down their weapons, the people of Bastion Station emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky and saw thousands of human ships, beautiful and powerful, surrounding their station in a protective formation. Young Piptel stood at a viewing port, tears running down their face. They came back. Just like grandmother said, the humans always keep their promises. Behind them, Mulvek smiled, exhausted and relieved beyond measure. His life's work was complete. The humans were real. They had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the return of humanity, the galaxy looked very different. The Vex Thor Empire had collapsed completely. Conquered worlds celebrated their freedom. Refugee camps slowly emptied as people returned to their homes. Human ships traveled throughout former Vex Thor space, providing aid and protection, but not everyone was celebrating. In the Grand Council chamber on Bastion Station, now converted into a diplomatic center, tensions ran high. Representatives from hundreds of species had gathered to discuss the future. Many were grateful. Many were also afraid. You say you came to protect us. Ambassador Felnara of the Crystalline Confederation addressed President Chen Wei, the human civilian leader. But you possess godlike powers. What happens when you decide to rule us instead? What stops you from becoming the next empire? President Chen Wei was an elderly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had been born in the dimensional refuge and had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She stood calmly before the assembled representatives. "I understand your fear," she said simply. "You have lived through centuries of tyranny. Trust is hard when you have been betrayed so many times. I can only tell you that we did not evolve to become conquerors. We evolved to face a threat that endangers all of us, a threat that is still coming." Murmurs ran through the assembly. Commander Thel Oren, now serving as the coalition's primary representative, stood. Admiral Okonkwo mentioned this before. "What threat?" Kira Ven appeared as a hologram at the center of the chamber. The AI had been helping coordinate reconstruction efforts, her vast knowledge proving invaluable. 4,000 years ago, human scientists detected a wave of exotic radiation moving through the galaxy. It sterilizes all organic life. It cannot be stopped by conventional means. It will reach the core worlds in approximately 500 years. The chamber erupted in panic. 500 years seemed like a long time. But to civilizations that thought in terms of millennia, it was alarmingly close. "We cannot stop it," President Chen said, raising her voice to be heard. "But we can survive it. We can teach you to evolve as we did, not by force but by choice. We can share our knowledge and help you develop the tools to adapt. 500 years is enough time if we work together." "Why should we trust you?" demanded a representative from the Vexthor remnant, one of the few who had been allowed to attend. "You left us once. You might leave again." "We left because staying would have doomed us all," Admiral Okonkwo said, entering the chamber. She had become the face of human military forces, respected for her restraint and wisdom. "We made an impossible choice. Abandon you temporarily to save you permanently, or stay and watch everything die. We chose the harder path, the path that required sacrifice and faith." She activated a holographic display showing the dimensional space where humanity had evolved. "This is where we spent 4,000 years. In your time. In ours, it was nearly 1,000,000 years. 40,000 generations of humans were born and died in that place, working toward a single goal. They never met you. They never saw this galaxy, but they were taught your stories. They learned your cultures. They worked to save people they would never meet because that is what it means to be human. We do not abandon our friends ever." Deloran felt tears in his eyes. 1,000,000 years. 40,000 generations, all working to fulfill a promise made by ancestors they had never known. The scope of human dedication was overwhelming. "What do you want from us?" asked a small voice. It was Piptel, now serving as a junior ambassador. The young being had become something of a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. President Chen smiled at them. "We want to rebuild what we had before. A galaxy where all species work together, share knowledge, and protect each other. We want to teach you what we learned so that you can face the future with confidence, and we want to do it as equals, not as masters and subjects." "How can we be equals?" Felnara asked. "You have powers we cannot match. You can destroy our fleets with a thought." "Power alone does not make someone superior," Admiral Okonkwo replied. "You have something we lost during our isolation. You have diversity of thought, fresh perspectives, and cultural richness. We evolved in a closed system. We need you as much as you need us. Together we become something greater than either of us alone." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives were convinced. Others remained skeptical. But slowly a consensus began to form. The galaxy had two choices. Trust the humans and work together or face the coming extinction alone. The decision was made. A new galactic council would be formed, with humans as one voice among many. Human technology would be shared freely, but each species would decide how to use it. No one would be forced to evolve or change. Those who wished to remain as they were would be protected, but those who chose to adapt would be guided. Far away on the Vexthor homeworld, Empress Zarketh sat in a simple room. She was no longer an empress, just a prisoner awaiting judgment. When Admiral Okonkwo entered, Zarketh expected execution or life imprisonment. Instead, the admiral sat across from her. "Your people have voted. They have chosen to join the new Galactic Council. They have also voted to exile you rather than execute you. They want to move forward without more bloodshed." Zarketh laughed bitterly. "So I am to be cast out while my people embrace their conquerors?" "We are not conquerors," Okonkwo said patiently. "We are what we have always been, protectors, mediators, friends to those who will accept friendship." You have the power to rule the galaxy, Zarketh said. Why do you not take it? Because ruling is not the same as leading, Okonkwo replied. Because power without consent creates resentment and rebellion. Because we learned over 1,000,000 years of hard experience that cooperation achieves more than domination. You built an empire on fear. It lasted 300 years and collapsed in a day. We are building something that will last until the stars go cold. She stood to leave, then paused. You have a choice, Zarketh. Accept exile with bitterness in your heart, or accept it as an opportunity to become something better. Your people are choosing growth. You can too. The Empress sat alone after the Admiral left, considering words she had never expected to hear from a victor. Across the galaxy, human ships began the great work of reconstruction, but they did not work alone. Coalition engineers studied human technology, learning and adapting. Human teachers shared knowledge of genetics, energy manipulation, and dimensional physics. Young people from hundreds of species attended new schools, where humans taught alongside their own kind. Mulvek became the head of the new Galactic Archives, working with Kira to preserve the history of the past 4,000 years. So that we never forget, he said, what can be achieved through hope and perseverance. Commander Theloran took a new role as military coordinator, working with Admiral Okonkwo to establish a true defensive force that included all species. For the first time in his life, he was not preparing for war. He was preparing for peace. Young Piptel studied at the new academy, learning human mathematics and physics alongside students from dozens of worlds. They dreamed of becoming an explorer, traveling through the dimensional gates that humans had begun to establish. On Earth, empty for 4,000 years, humans walked on grass and breathed real air for the first time in their lives. They cried at the beauty of sunsets they had only seen in recordings. They planted trees that would take centuries to grow, confident that there would be future generations to enjoy them. 5 years after the return, President Chen Wei stood before the Galactic Council for the last time. She was stepping down, her term complete. I leave you with this message, she said to the assembled representatives. 4,000 years ago, we made a promise. We said we would return when you needed us most. We kept that promise. Now I ask you to make a promise to future generations. Promise that you will face challenges together. Promise that you will choose cooperation over conflict. Promise that you will become something greater than you are today, because the true threat is still coming, and we will need everyone at their best to survive. The council voted unanimously to accept her challenge. The promise of unity, they called it. Every species pledged to work together, to share knowledge, and to prepare for the future as one people with many faces. On Bastion Station, now officially renamed Hope Station, a monument was erected. It showed a human hand reaching down to lift up beings of many species, while those beings in turn lifted the human higher. The inscription read, "They returned when all hope was lost. Together, we will face whatever comes." Piptel stood before the monument with their grandmother, who had lived to see the return she always believed would happen. Was it like you imagined? Piptel asked. The old being smiled. It was better, because the humans did not come back to save us. They came back to teach us to save ourselves. That is a greater gift than rescue. That is the gift of hope. At the edge of the galaxy, sensors continued to monitor the approaching radiation wave. It was still 500 years away. But now thousands of species worked together to develop the technologies and strategies to survive it. They shared ideas, combined their strengths, and built toward a future they would all share. The humans had returned, not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners. And the galaxy, united for the first time in 4,000 years, faced the future together. Whatever came, they would face it as one. Humanity had proven that extinction was not inevitable, that suffering could end, and that promises made across millennia could still be kept. The age of silence was over. The age of hope had begun.